if this is the first time you're listening to this podcast, I want to say extra welcome to you. And today I have a special person with me in this interview. And I say special because from my perspective, there's not often I meet people who have kind of dedicated their lives to have such a big vision for the world, how you could help the planet. And this man who's I'm gonna talk to today, he's been nominated or awarded for being the social entrepreneur for India back in 2012. And he's also been named for the name of the clothing man. And that's because he's probably helped more people on the of the planet Earth than any person in the world to get clean clothes. So I'm very curious to understand why clothes is such a big topic, or why that makes such a big impact. And I want to say welcome to you, Mr. Anshu. How are you feeling today?
Good, very good. Yeah.
Like I heard you say that clothing could be a non-issue compared to climate change and maybe starvation. And at the same time, it's really not. So could you help us to understand why is clothing such an interesting option to help people in need?
So to start with, to be honest, me and you are talking because we are wearing clothes. And people are listening, people are watching because we are wearing clothes. So, and it's not about either or, it's about and. So when we started, a lot of people say that no, the food is more important. So who is arguing that food is not important or less important? It's all about the parallel needs of humankind. I mean, the irony is that how do you really identify people in terms of, say, in the society, and a very unfortunate way of doing it, but who is poor, who is not, who is literate, illiterate, upper caste, lower caste, large number of things you decide on the basis of clothes to people. So clothing, unfortunately, is the first visible sign of poverty. And when you talk about three basic needs of humankind, you still say food, cloth, and shelter. But if you see the development issues across the globe, the MDGs and the SDGs and all kind of development goals, as I always say, I must be repeating it 1,000 times, that you have 100, 150 issues, literally from domestic violence to global warming to climate change. You will never find clothing written as a subject, which is the first visible sign of poverty. I'm not even talking about dignity and all right now. I'm only talking about the basics of life. And we also know that in this world, more people die due to lack of clothing in winters than earthquake or floods. We also know that if you talk about the dignity, if you talk about the acceptance in the society, I mean, how many of us can really enter in an office or in a building or anywhere in the tattered, shattered cloth? How many of us, when we go to the villages to work or the communities to work, I mean, the first clear identity is that someone who is wearing good clothes, we think that that person has more skills.
So basically you're saying that there's still a lot of people who don't have basic clothes, like you would go half naked.
So I think again it's a question of the non-issues and the issues and the vision. I mean, if you say half the world doesn't get 2 meals a day, or if you even say 30% people on the planet do not get 2 meals a day, I think if we just use a small common sense of ourselves, we exactly know that this is not the problem of hunger. Hunger is just one of the problem. Someone who is hungry, someone who does not have 2 meals a day, also does not have access to anything else. So we don't need any data for this. If you go to any kind of places, today, if you see all these refugee camps and all those things are really happening in a big way, the way the world is moving to various kind of human-made and natural disasters. All those people, all the people who are below so-called poverty lines across the globe, all the people who are not getting 2 meals a day. So one of the very basic need of clothing, which is also the need of dignity, self-respect, and protection from the weather, is actually also not fulfilled. But we are not talking about it because as I always say that people like me and you, if we don't get lunch after the breakfast, we experience hunger. If we go to a new city and we don't get a space in a hotel, we also know homelessness. But maybe me and you have never gone without clothes in a meeting.
Yeah,
So maybe that is the reason.
never
Absolutely.
thought about that. That like not having clothes would be about dignity. And okay, so you're saying you also mentioned some kind of self-fulfillment. Are you saying that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all about confidence. I mean, me and you, both of us know that if we have a spot on our on my shirt, right, I cannot talk with the same confidence.
Hmm.
I'll be really one compartment of my brain will be actually busy here, hiding it somewhere. So if a spot on my cloth can, take away my confidence completely, someone who is not wearing clothes, how do we even talk about the confidence? And a lot of people who wear good clothes might not understand this.
Okay, so to set the context here for the listeners, like 20 years ago, you started this organization called Ganj, and now today it's a huge organization with around 1,000 people who
Yeah,
work to
yeah.
help to recycle material to bring clothes to the kind of suburbans or to the countryside of the Indian population. Um, so how come you even started to? Because you were the founder of
So,
this organization,
yeah. I'm the founder, uh, and we are about 1,000 people, and we work in more than now 23 states of India. So
right?
it's quite a large population, but obviously in Indian context, it's not that large. But otherwise, it's large population if we see the ratio of it. And the whole idea is not just to take care of the clothing need of people. The whole idea was that in the process, that how do we really uh, make a dent on this charitable mindset of people, and how do we dignify giving? The other idea which came up is also that how do we really use the second-hand goods of the society as an alternate currency, as an additional currency for the development. So simple model of Goonj is that we deal with about 5.5 million kgs of material every year. Uh, every year, obviously, it is growing. It is clothes, utensil, footwear, old furniture, school material, books, anything and everything which can be reused. Then it goes through a very rigorous process because you have to match the need. Because unfortunately, in the donation mindset, largely you give what you have, you don't give what people need.
Mm,
So that's always a gap. I mean, a whole lot of people who have dealt with disasters have seen it quite often. A whole lot of people who are working in the development sector space, they know it, what I'm saying. So it goes through a very rigorous process of matching the needs of people. Large part of it is converted into family kits and all. And then in the villages of India, largely, I'm not saying that we are not in the suburban areas, but largely in the villages of India, because we understand that if you talk about the financially weaker section, their biggest asset is their self-respect. Their biggest asset is their dignity. You often do not find beggars in the countryside or in the villages. Begging is a city phenomena which happens in compulsion. So we said that we cannot promote charity. That is where in the villages people take up large number of development activities. So they dig well, they dig pond, they make roads with the local resources, and then after a few days of work, they are rewarded uh, in kind. So it's like a model where someone is contributing labor and the person is rewarded in material. No charity.
mm.
So if you see the model way it works with 5.5 million kgs of material, that we have been able to make a huge dent on the charity, because otherwise second-hand goods worldwide are always seen as a charitable subject or object. It's always used for the charity. We have just absolutely demolished that.
So to if I see if I can understand you right here, so you're saying that instead of donating money, using money as a currency, you kind of replace the currency, or you just added a new currency, which would be material, and people could work for material to
Absolutely.
actually.
So we do need money to run the organization because it's a hardcore logistics organization. So we need almost $5 to $6 million every year of to run this large scale pan India organization. But people on the grassroots are actually not paid or rewarded in money. They are rewarded in kind. And it's all about dignity. Fine. Say suppose one of the example which I often give is that, say suppose I give a shirt or a trouser to someone in the village, and next day I go and say this shirt belongs to me. The
Mm.
person has no option but to accept that yes, it is yours. But then that person makes a road for the village, or work on a water body in the village for a few days, and the person gets a shirt. I go and say this shirt belongs to me. Now that person has an option to say that it might be yours, but I've earned it.
Mm.
So is that language, is that narration which we are trying to change, apart from adding additional currencies in the development work.
Right, so I can see the function here. You saw people are giving what they have, not what is needed. So you adding that new currency helps you solve that problem. You're solving a problem of actually bringing what people need, and people would need good material or new clothes. Yeah.
Yeah, and people also need road and water bodies.
Ah.
So I mean that is an additional option. I mean that is an additional part of the entire work, that apart from fulfilling the material need of people, what
Right.
they desperately need, they're also making infrastructure for themselves. They're also working on water bodies and roads and bridges for themselves. So that is also making life much easier at a much lesser resource. So there is a sense of dignity in the entire process, and it becomes also a very, if you see the monetary value also, they save a huge amount of money also, which they would have spent in buying that material. So it's a very large economic development concept. It's not about an organization which is doing charity with the clothing, which often people think about us.
Right. So I see like one person here has no job. Thanks to this kind of way of seeing how you could start contribute to the society, this person gets to do society work, and that's gonna help kind of build up the society within infrastructure. And as a reward, you will get clothes or material, and this would help the dignity. So it's like a positive spiral going upwards for people
Yeah,
who
maybe
before didn't have
maybe
that
much
option.
much beyond that, the concept of circular economy also, because circular economy is only telling you that make use of this stuff to the last, to the core of it. And we are saying that every single thing has multiple lives.
Mm.
And so when it goes to the people of the village, one is the life of the material, but then the second life is start, which this material is used as a resource to dig a well or make a pond. So it's much beyond that.
Right. I really see what you're adding and why this has grown so much. The problem you're solving, it's very smart. Now I want to focus more on people who don't know your organization, because in India, I guess people would probably know you. And for example, maybe Europeans and American might not have heard about you. So is there anything that you think would be important for Americans or Europeans to understand about your organization, or this, I guess maybe this could be able to replicate in other areas outside of India? Is there anything you would like to clarify to help us understand?
So what people, I mean, it's a very simple concept where we are talking about additional currencies, which are already existing, which are already there in the market, right? If you talk about second-hand goods, so what I'm really imagining, and what the vision of Goonj is, that a day should come when the entire world must treat the second-hand goods as an additional currency. Number one. And number two, extremely important to make a dent on the charity mindset of people, of the giver and of the receiver both, because charity takes away dignity from you,
Hmm.
and if there is no dignity, there is no development. So it will look like a development because something people have got it, but if you take out the soul out of it, I mean you cover someone's body but you take out the soul, then it's not development, and that soul is dignity. So most important for us is just two things, which whether people in America or Europe or anywhere in the world, they must understand that there's a currency lying next to us in our godowns, in our stores, in our shops. If it goes to the right people, instead of buying it, instead of getting it as charity, people are happy, to earn it.
Mm.
And in lieu of that, people are absolutely happy to do very large scale development work. And Goonj has literally proved this in the last so many years. I mean, there is huge amount of evidence which is there on our website or all across, even if you Google. And second most important part, which the people in America, Europe, and all across the globe need to understand, that if dignity is important for me and you, dignity is exactly important for every single person who is not wearing good clothes or whom we unfortunately call beneficiary. Because we get a kick when we use this language of donor and beneficiary. It's important to treat people as a stakeholder because every single person can bring something on the table.
Mm.
Right? You can bring your communication skill, I can bring my logistics skill, someone can bring money, someone can bring hardcore labor. So because doing good is a collective responsibility. It's not that the people who have money only can do the good. So let's involve people for whom we are trying to do good as a stakeholder, because like in our case, if we are digging a well or if we are making a road, we are not getting people to design that from the big cities. It is the local wisdom which we are using to do it. And every single person has wisdom.
That's very beautiful. Like I love what you're saying now. So help people help themselves instead of helping people to just be passive. That dignity part.
Absolutely.
Now we're starting to, because this is these interviews are quite short, and we want to make it explain it as um, easy as possible to understand what you're doing. And I'm really interested also to understand, like the last thing here, we're gonna talk about if someone would like to support your cause or the whole course in itself, what could people do to help?
I think they understand the ethos of it. Is people should not mistake, by calling our work a logistics work or a charity or all that. People should understand the larger economic part of it, and then spread the message about it. Then only the replication will happen in the right way. We are also looking for people who can do some academic research on our work. Then the replication in various economies will become much easier. And for sure, people who are sitting with their dead inventories, obviously in India, because we cannot get the material from outside India as per laws. But if your companies are here and you're a giant and you have 5,000 or 5 million shampoos or soaps or toothpaste which are going to expire in 2 months, you might not be able to take care of those 100,000 toothpaste or something, but in 2 months, but we can take care of it. So we work a lot on the dead inventory also. And then the last option for sure is becoming a part of the monetary giving circles to Goonj, because unfortunately, a lot of people are happy just by giving material. They do not understand that if you give me a t-shirt, I will, it will be sorted by a paid person sitting at a paid place, and it will be transported by a paid transport. So that with material, the money matters. So I mean that is where people from outside India can certainly participate. So A, academic, B, spreading the message, C, basically having people in this circle, and D, the monetary part.
Great summary. Yes, thank you. That's exactly what I was looking for. Okay, so we're gonna wrap this up. Anything else you want to say? We have about 30 seconds, like the last thing for this interview for today.
I think we just need to, as the word of the doers, we need to change the way we are working in certain things. We need to talk more about dignity than charity, and anything else about us, about the work we are trying to do, and the ethos and the philosophy. Goonj.org or our Facebook has a lot of updated information.
Right, we're gonna link to Ganj in this. So if you want to understand more about Anshu and the work they've been doing, which has been quite successful in India, do check that out. And thank you very much, Anshu, for coming today. And I hope you have a great next year where you're growing more than you have capacity to grow.